Hello everybody and welcome back to what is the second episode from Riders Corner on this MotoVlog series. Today we're going to be going out for a ride to Princetown. I'm going to be showing you some of my favourite roads again, but this time we're going to be followed along by my dad, who's come along with his 675 Street Triple. Now this bike's got over 100 horsepower and he still can't keep up. We're going to be working on that in the future, but for today's episode he's going to be following along, although he does take the lead once or twice in this video. I'm going to be talking through some of my favourite mods that I've done to this bike and also some of the worst ones that I've done. And I've done some pretty bad cheap mods that I've just bought from eBay. Now after the audio issues of my last MotoVlog, I've stepped up my game and we're going to be doing running commentary for this episode only. I have just bought a GoPro audio adapter which will allow me to talk to you live from inside the helmet. In future I am actually planning on streaming live video, which means that I'll be able to talk to you guys whilst actually riding on the bike. I've not seen anyone do this, I don't actually know if it's possible. I think it's probably going to use up all my data on my mobile plan, but you know, whatever. Now although we have some really interesting topics to talk about today, I will be giving your ears a rest for all the awesome bits of this MotoVlog, especially the really cool riding bits, where you know you get a really good exhaust note, and all the bits where we stop and have a chat and a laugh. An example of that is when we stop at a petrol station here. But something I have to put across to you first is me and Dad have actually got an intercom system set up, which means that we can have a chat to each other whilst riding the bike. Now this is an awesome thing to do if you can afford it. It really does help when you're riding, especially if you're riding with the same people. Although a top tip is to turn it off when you get to a petrol station, especially when you're front in line at the queue. Otherwise you might end up with your mate shouting piss flaps at you as you're trying to check out. Piss flaps. Can I have some piss flaps please? Thank you, mate. Oh, what are you doing now? You pulled that out of the scrap?
Yeah. Chest is really cold. The wind's going right through, I only got a little thin jumper. Chest was so cold. This one that's good.
Top tips. Top tips. I like it.
That worked. Always check it the well, everything else is nice and warm. Especially my heated grips.
Oh yeah. We'll be doing that soon.
I like to see the YouTube on it.
I want to do a full video where we do the screen, these mirrors, repaint this, and then do the Oxford heated grips as well. That'll be the next Yum episode.
Hello? Hello?
You don't have to shout. Hello mate. Let's go, we're going to go to Princetown. That's right, you just saw Dad get chopped by a Kia Picanto, and I've got that on camera now, so he can never deny it. So we're going to be starting this list of best and worst mods with my exhaust. I've got a 200mm stubby Delkovich exhaust, which I absolutely love. I've talked about this exhaust before, it sounds fantastic, and for less than £100, I'm super chuffed of how this thing sounds. It adds so much to the character and the feel of the bike, and although it makes me drive like a bit of a knob because I end up revving the tits off of it as much as I can, I just absolutely love how it pops and bangs. It's such a sweet sounding exhaust. The character of the bike really comes out in the V-twin roar. I can't get enough of the sound. The one bad thing that I would say about this exhaust is that the baffle actually is on the engine side of the end can, which means that to take the baffle in and out you've actually got to take the whole end can off. I would much rather be able to take that baffle in and out as I wanted to, such as for MOTs or track days or anything like that, but it just means that I have to take everything off and then reseal it when I put it back on. The next best mod that I've done is definitely my brakes. I am a huge stickler for having great feeling brakes. I think that having this is just such a good upgrade, and you can spend as much money as you want really. Just changing your oil and doing a bleed, I mean that costs less than 20 quid, and it can seriously add so much feel to the brake lever. I've actually changed the brake lines to braided hoses. These are Hell braided hoses. They've got some blue insulation which makes it look really nice. It kind of fits in with the bike, and it just modernises the whole thing. These rubber brake hoses can deteriorate over time and become a bit more squishy. The braided hoses, however, will always stay that shape, and you get a much better braking feel with less the sponginess, which you don't really want. Now I've done the braided hoses front and back, and then I've upgraded the pads, and on the front I've upgraded the discs as well. I'd say that the discs are a good thing once your discs need changing anyway. I think if you're going to replace something, at least upgrade it. I have also tried upgrading the brake reservoir for a anodized aluminium one, and they always end up leaking, breaking, falling off. You know, they just cause more trouble than they're worth. I ended up putting like this OEM looking one and just putting a sleeve over the top, which to be honest I actually prefer. Some of the anodized aluminium ones end up being quite reflective as well. Honestly, they're just not worth it. You might get away with it for your back one, but still you end up with the problems with them leaking. Whilst I had my entire brake system apart, whilst the lines are off, once the pads are out, I took the calipers apart and did a rebuild on them. I mean, it cost less than 15 quid. Again, it was all off eBay. It wasn't until I actually took it apart and took the pots out that I realised just how corroded they were. Doing this type of general maintenance and servicing can stop huge problems in the future. I mean, if like an O-ring pops, you end up with brake fluid all over your discs. If you don't notice, they're all over your tyres. And this is like, it's just preventing a bigger and more expensive issue down the line. So this type of maintenance is awesome, and it can save you money in the long run. Upgrading stuff like your brakes might be daunting at first, but there's plenty of videos online of how to do it, and that's exactly what I've done. Over the last 2 years of owning my bike, just watching YouTube and stuff like that has helped with my confidence, and working on the bike and doing jobs step by step has meant that I've pretty much worked on the entirety of my bike now. I've got a lot of confidence in my brakes. I've got a lot of confidence in my ability with the brakes because I can feel exactly what they're doing and how they're working. It's prevented future issues, and it's modernised the entire front end, which honestly makes the bike feel a whole lot safer. Yeah, your bike's in the way, mate. Yeah, mate.
Cheers, bud. Your indicators are working lovely now, mate.
Thank you, mate. I did an episode on that. You should check that out if you want to see how I did it.
I don't watch that shit.
Moving on from brakes, we're going to be talking about my next favourite mod that I've done to this bike, and it's putting some awesome tyres on. Honestly, spend as much money as you can for what you want or for what you need. I bought some Pirelli Angel ST tyres, which I cannot recommend enough. Although these were my first tyres to change, I don't really have much experience as to what's good and what's not, and I've never ridden with semi-slicks or anything like that, but I like tyres which are sticky and don't wear weird. These tyres, they look cool, but they perform amazingly. I think putting sports bike tyres on your sports bike seems like a great idea, but putting sports touring tyres on, it means that you've got a longer life expectancy of the tyre, but the way that the tyre heats up makes it more suitable for road use. There's no point putting a track day tyre on your bike, even if you are kind of like a Sunday rider, because if you come out of your house and expect your tyres to be perfectly warm as if you had tyre warmers on it already, you know, you're going to be a bit surprised when you don't get exactly the type of results that you was hoping for. Sports touring tyres, they warm up evenly, and it doesn't matter whether you're in the rain or, you know, whatever. You want a set of tyres which is suitable for the types of conditions you're in. Honestly, if I was going to be doing a track day, I would probably change these tyres. But you know, when it starts raining, I like to have this kind of confidence that my bike's ready, you know, and I would feel like if I had some track day tyres or some summer tyres, although they might be, what, realistically, like less than 10% better in the sun. I mean, how much better can they be? How fast do you want to be going around these corners? Like a sports touring tyre, honestly, it's, what more could you want? I know I'm super chuffed with these tyres. This is one of my favourite mods that I've done. I did change the sizes. I want to say a larger profile tyre, or a higher profile. It's gone from a 50 to a 60 anyway, and it meant that the bike felt a little bit more tippy, which was a bit strange at first, but I got used to it, and now the bike feels very planted in corners. I think doing a bit of research, finding out which tyre is best for your bike is definitely the way to go. At least that's what I did. That's how I came across these tyres. At the end of the day, the tyre is the only thing that's between your bike and the road, and the quality of the tyre is really going to affect how that feels. If your bike is a brand new bike, then the tyres that you've got from factory might not be as good quality as you think. They might have the right name on them, but did you know that a lot of manufactured tyres that are put on brand new bikes, they aren't actually the same as the ones that you bought at aftermarket? In fact, they're probably quite a bit cheaper. So what I'd recommend to you guys is, if your tyres aren't up to scratch, if they're not suitable for your bike, or if you think that you can actually upgrade them and get something a little bit more worthwhile, honestly, the feel that you get out of a good set of tyres far outweighs the cost. Well, I hope that you're enjoying this video so far. I hope that you like the content. But some of the best roads, the whole reason of this ride, is coming up, so make sure you stick around. Until then though, we're going to be talking through some of the worst mods that I've done on this bike. I think one of them is the foot pegs. Although they were quite expensive and they're adjustable, they are probably the whole reason why this bike is uncomfortable. I thought having adjustable foot pegs would mean that I'd have a lot more play in them and I could set the bike up exactly as I wanted. However, changing the location of where the foot pegs are is a huge pain in the ass. It means that I do not want to do it, because you actually have to set up all your gears and your brakes again. It's just not worth changing the position of them every time that you decide you want to go fast that day or cruise this day. Pretty much from there. I got it! Oh, that is how you drop a bike. On camera. Thank you. I've got that on footage as well now. Proof. I'm going to get a Slack made up of you saying that. Oh, after you. Yeah, what a wanker. So when I first got the foot pegs, I wanted them as high and as far back as I possibly could for the sportiest riding position, and I did that and they were so uncomfortable I had to change it. Not only, first of all, did it take quite a long time to get the brakes and gears set up exactly how I wanted it, my knees were so bent and my feet felt so high that it just felt super uncomfortable on any ride. It did put me in like a Batman position, which meant that when you do go fast, everything kind of felt a little bit slower, a bit more comfortable. I kind of like the bike scaring me. I want to be hanging on for dear life. So anyway, I adjusted them back to a more comfortable position. In fact, I put them in like the most comfortable position. I put them all the way forward and all the way down, and it is still more like race orientated than the standard ones. Now that I've done all this work, I can't get standard ones and replace it because I've had to do changes with like the hydraulic brake switch, which was an additional cost to doing this mod. And you know what, the final thing that annoys me about this is the fact that they're solid. They don't fold back like the stock ones do, which you don't even comprehend is how amazing that is until you have these foot pegs. These foot pegs, you bash your shins or your calves on them so many times that just makes you hate them. Honestly, I don't even care how adjustable these are. These things are a pain in the ass. Anyway, moving on. The next worst mod that I've done to this bike is these bar ends. I don't know how this turns out in the GoPro footage, but they do actually look quite cheap, and they were eBay. And so was a lot of the other stuff on this bike that I don't like. Pretty much anything that I bought off eBay I've had to either buy again, or I'm in the process of buying again. These grips, I'm actually quite happy with these grips, but these were eBay and I'll be replacing them. I'm going to be replacing these with the Oxford heater grips like I mentioned earlier. Honestly, I preferred the stock ones. If they weren't so worn, I would have much preferred to keep the originals. Following on from that, the other stuff that I don't like on this bike, which was the cheap stuff, is probably also the illegal stuff. Stuff like the tiny number plate, although at the time it looked really cool. The chances of getting pulled over, I don't know, it kind of outweighed the looks of it, I don't know, maybe. Looking back at the pictures, I do definitely miss that small number plate. I think it cost less than a tenner, so I'm not really too fussed about it, but like the lights that I bought that had the integrated indicators, it looked fantastic, I loved them, but it failed the MOT, which just ruined the day, because if I then had to go home, change the lights to the standard ones, rewire all that, take the fairing off to put it back on, and you know, it was just a big pain in the ass. It meant I had to rebook the MOT again. It just made the whole thing awkward. So if you're going to put illegal stuff on your bike, make sure that you know that you're probably going to have to take it all off again at some point, especially if you get fined. It just ends up not being worth it, although a lot of it does actually look quite cool. I want to hear from you what the worst mods you've done on your bike is. Maybe it's something you've done yourself or someone has done for you on your bike. Make sure you hit me up on Instagram at Riders Corner UK. I'd love to hear from you guys. We've got a lot of people over there. I think we're nearly up to 550 followers, which I'm chuffed with really, because that's way more than my personal account, so you know, go you guys. We're actually doing a little giveaway over there just to say thank you to you guys, so make sure you go over there just to you know, if you want to be in it to win it. So next up on the best mods that I've done on this bike is probably the plates and indicators. I actually did a video on this. I really like the original one that I did, although it was wonky, it was a bit weird. It wasn't perfect. Alright, yes, it had misdrawn holes in it, but this version is much nicer, it's a lot more professional. Very happy with how it turned out. If you want to see that, make sure you click the link. There's a little video of how to do this on your bike without any of the cock-ups I had on my first go of this. I even fixed the rusty tail tidy thing that was there. This whole thing modernizes the back end. It tidies the back end. You know, the tail tidy makes everything much neater and smaller. No one likes that big rear fender on the new bikes that they bought. This whole thing just makes the bike look modern, you know. You can't neglect your rear end, guys, you know. And with that, we're going straight into the next thing, which is maybe a little bit of a controversial one. At least that's what it seems like from Facebook groups and Instagram, and that's the shorty levers that I've got. I actually much prefer these short levers to the standard ones. I don't like the big grey things with the balls on the end. I don't think they look good, and I don't think that they feel good. What's controversial about that is the fact that these cost about £15, and they say, well, you know, when it snaps, you're buggered because you can't change gear or brake. Or I get that, but I've dropped this bike. I'm not one to hide that. You know, everything else breaks. These levers don't seem to break. I've got the utmost confidence in these levers, especially when I'm braking or clutching really hard, if that's a thing. They feel good, they got all the adjustability you need. I don't see the point in spending 150 quid on some freaking levers. What is the difference? It's 10 times more and they've just got a logo on them. I want to know why you think these are no good. Why is this a controversial topic? I don't know. These cost £15 and they're fantastic. I've had this the full time I've owned the bike. It was like one of the first mods that I did. I like the colour, everything seems to match, and they don't feel cheap. I don't understand why the expensive ones are any better than this, let alone 10 times better. So if modifying your bike on a budget is your thing, I think getting a couple cans of spray paint is probably the way forward. I don't think I would ever touch the bodywork, but touching up some of the rusty bits and the scratches has really brought this bike back to life. There were a few rusty spots kind of like in behind the passenger foot pegs. There was a scratch across the engine casing. Any like rusted bolts that you can't replace. It was awesome just to get some Hammerite silver paint and just give them a quick touch up. That kind of just glosses everything up, makes everything look shiny, makes everything look new. And I think for the £10–15 that it costs for a can of spray paint, and you know, maybe just an afternoon of time in preparation and masking and getting everything in position before painting, you end up with a really good finish on your bike, and you can kind of hide and touch up some of the bits that need it. You know, you're just giving the bike some TLC and giving it a little touch up. So spending a day prepping and painting and, you know, giving the bike some TLC was probably one of the best days working on the bike for me, because of the job satisfaction you get after it when you peel everything off and you just see everything look all brand new again. Oh, it's just a lovely feeling. So guys, there we have it. Hope that you enjoyed this motovlog episode I've put together. I've tried to do the best I could with the footage I had, considering that I had terrible audio, although I promise you guys that has been fixed now. Whilst editing for this episode, I have actually bought a GoPro adapter, which will mean that my new Pink Panda microphone works perfectly fine now, and I've tested it. The bike sounds amazing. You can actually hear exactly what it sounds like from my point of view, which is, to be honest, the whole point of this thing. And on top of that, you can hear exactly what I'm saying whilst I'm actually riding the bike. It does this simultaneously, which means that you don't actually lose out on any of the noise that the bike's making, you don't miss out on the exhaust. You can hear absolutely everything. I'm really happy with how it ended up turning out, and I've got some amazing video clips that I kind of managed to piece together from a kind of a test day that I did with the new rig setup. I did a couple tunnel runs, a couple like pulls with the bike, just to kind of gauge what I could pick up and what I might miss. And honestly, I was super impressed with this setup. So we're going to end up having some much better quality and much higher professional sounding videos coming up in the future. I will probably even do a couple clips, maybe like a day or two after this episode, just so that you can maybe even hear the difference. Until then though guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this topic. I honestly tried to do the best that I could with what I've had. I still think it ended up being a quite fun and interesting episode for you guys. But tell me what you think. Tell me if this is the sort of thing that you'd like to hear more of in the future. If you enjoy this content, make sure you subscribe and stick around for more episodes. Until next time guys, Ryan out.